What can I say? When you play identity politics, what else did you expect was going to happen? For decades now, the Labour Party, first of all, presented themselves as the voice of the white working class. And then when it became inconvenient, they ditched them. They then were the voice of the African Caribbean community, the Windrush generation. And when the time came, they ditched them as well. En route to where we are now, they've been the voice of the Hindus, the Poles, the Jews, the refugees. And when necessary, they ditched every one of these communities. So why did my Muslim brothers and sisters think a day would not come when they would be ditched as well?
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius AROOJ McMAHON was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very, very good evening. Sunday the 29th of October 2023. My name is Raj Amir. These are Recusant 9 transmissions. We try and get one out. I can see my microphone, so just give me a second whilst I move that out of the way maybe. We'll try and get one out every Sunday night. So thank you to all of you who've bared with me for the previous 2 Sundays. My mum, as you all know, has been very ill with cancer, fighting cancer for the last 5 years. And she was suddenly taken ill anyway. It's not good news, but it happens to all of us, I suppose. And if I could choose a way to go, it would be knowing that I had a little time to get my affairs in order and say goodbye to the people that I cared about. So that's what we're currently doing with my mother, who's still here. You know, she came home and we didn't think she'd last a day, never mind the 2 weeks or so that she's lasted so far. So thank you very, very much to all of you who sent me your well wishes, and to everyone else who has given me the time to take care of her. So thank you very, very much to all of you. Good evening to a few latecomers, Nick, Lee, Ray, Sheila, and a few others. Thank you. Sorry I couldn't get your names up there in time. I've had to, well, as it happens, I turn everything off, and then turning things back on, and not everything works the way it should do. But I think we are here. If your comments have vanished, that's not on me, I'm afraid, Sheila. So that's something at your end. That's not something I can do. I am, whilst you maybe get your comments back, I am eating some mini chocolates. People keep bringing my mum chocolates and fruits, so the fruit clearly goes elsewhere, but the chocolates come in my direction. You've got them back. Okay. A very good evening, Louise. You've not missed anything. I was just eating a mini Celebrations Mars. I had it in my hand and I was thinking it was meant to I was meant to wait until the break, but clearly, yeah, clearly not. And I've got a packet next to me, so maybe that's where we'll end up this evening. Okay. I struggle with the identity politics. I understand it, but I struggle with it because it never leads us into a good place. When you attempt to represent a demographic because of their faith, their ethnicity, their, where they've come from, the colour of their skin, as the Labour Party have done for all of my life, it never ends up in a good place. And the reason why it never ends up in a good place is at some point, and this is why we've got to a place around the term multiculturalism and those people who we see now saying multiculturalism has failed. It's not failed because of people like me or you. It's failed because of the politicians and how they've pandered to block votes. And in particular, the politicians from the Labour Party. Those of you who joined me on this journey at the beginning, when I first wrote Welcome to Oldham, will know I set out my stall as far back as then, as to exactly what was going on, not just in our town, but in towns and cities across the country, particularly in locations that I make reference to, not as demographically minority majorities, but politically minority majorities, which Oldham is. It's politically a minority majority town, where the minority demographics have the majority say on the makeup of the decision making, the political decision making. And so when this latest Israeli-Palestinian conflict came around, and it has been, I've known it as a constant all of my life. I'm 50 years old, and I've known it as a constant all of my life. It comes and goes in various phases. Never ends well for the Palestinians. Now, Israel's a strong military army, and consistently, repeatedly, all have, when I look at it. And yes, there's something going in the background all the time, not something. There's something going in the background around a group of people who have been dispossessed of their homes. And whatever anyone has to say on the matter, it's easy for us to judge from the outside on either side. So I don't want to really focus on that to start with. We'll get to some of that later. But I'm of the opinion that we all already have our opinions on this. And very few of us will have our opinions changed on this. And who am I to try and force you to think one way or another way? No. My focus has never been on that. My focus has been on how politicians exploit our communities. And this is what I want to start with, is how the Labour Party, for decades, has gone to the Muslims. And I say Muslims, let's be very specific here. In the main Pakistani and Bangladeshi, which make up the majority Muslim, outside of London, the majority Muslim communities in this country are from the Pakistani and Bangladeshi backgrounds. And over the last few decades, the Labour Party has, first of all, took the block vote and represented them. And then there came a time when that wasn't enough. So they allowed this group of people not just to vote for them, but to also stand as councillors. And over a period of time that progressed, well, we now also have Pakistani and Bangladeshi Muslim MPs. The closest one I know is in Manchester, Afzal Khan. Used to be a councillor. And that's Manchester, you know, one of the big cities in the world. Well, when you come and scratch the surface, you'll see the very same ethnic identity politics played out. So what chance has a town like ours got? Now in our town, the Labour Party has courted the Muslim vote to a point where AROOJ SHAH, the leader of Oldham Council at this moment in time, second time leader of Oldham Council, is a Muslim. I think she's a Shia Muslim actually, rather than a Sunni Muslim, which most of us are in this town. The Shias and the Sunnis are like, I suppose, how the Catholics and the Protestants were. Not now, but a long time ago. Iran, by the way, is Shia. So Hamas is a Shia organisation. Or Shia funded at the very least. Iranian funded. Proscribed, so we're clear. Proscribed organisation. Terrorist organisation. Now when these individuals from within my own community, my Bangladeshi and Pakistani community, took positions in the council and they got votes, they got themselves elected. They got themselves elected in areas that were predominantly Muslim. And they all ran on a Muslim ticket. I am Pakistani, I am Bangladeshi, yes, so there's an ethnic element, but also I am a Muslim. And I will protect the Muslims, or I will promote the Muslims, every one of them. You'll see that many of them, as well as being councillors, have prominent positions on mosque management committees, or are connected with mosques where, you know, like the brothers or the fathers or the cousins also sit on the mosques management committees. So, the Labour Party politicians in Oldham, the Asian ones, the Pakistani and Bangladeshi ones, notice there's no Indian ones, by the way. Notice there's no African and Caribbean ones, because the bloc vote isn't strong enough. But they are Pakistani and they're Bangladeshis. Ran on a pro-Muslim ticket. We will take care of you, was the message to the Muslim communities from the Labour Party. We are your voice. What you care about, we care about. We will support you, we'll protect you, we will promote you. We will represent you. And then both MPs, Debbie Abrahams and JIM McMAHON, rode on the back of that message to get themselves elected. And indeed amplified that message when it suited them. Debbie Abrahams, who have mocked as Debbie Kashmir, has used the Kashmiri issue politically very, very well because it's ensured she stayed in power and was re-elected at the last general election, where in the majority of areas, polling stations, she lost and lost considerably. But the Muslim bloc vote in Glodwick, St Mary's, in Alexandra and in Waterhead came to her rescue. JIM McMAHON has done the same. Now again, I mock him with his nibbling of samosas, but there's a reason why. Because come election time, he wasn't sat in church halls in Royton or in a synagogue in Chadderton. He wasn't at the temple in Hollingwood. He was more than often seen in and around mosques, surrounded by his Muslim demographic. And he did the same. I will be your voice, I will represent you. So that's what you've got to understand at the beginning. Before we get into the flag waving or even what happened, the starting point here, you've got to understand, just as the white working class were betrayed, the Labour Party had led these people to believe that they were, for them, their voice. And the Pakistanis and Bangladeshis in Oldham and across the country believed up to now that the Labour Party was for them. And then the horrific terrorist attacks took place on the 7th. Now, before we continue, I think it's significant I make reference to this, because I know there have been messages going around trying to discredit me, particularly by those who are filled with envy. I am the only person any of you know that was not only arrested but was also charged and risked imprisonment for speaking out against anti-Semitism in this town. If I had been found guilty, I would have been put in prison. So any of you who wants to call me an anti-Semite, well, you don't know me at all. Of course, I'm making reference to the Elbit factory protests, where AROOJ Shah, at the time it was politically convenient for her to speak openly, campaigned to shut down a factory that had been attacked, had its windows smashed, red paint daubed all over, and children at the protest where AROOJ Shah was speaking alongside Debbie Abrahams were waving what I described at the time as pro-Hamas banners with the message from the river to the sea. Now I know what that message meant because I'm trained to understand what that message meant, and we can reinvent what that message means now, but I spoke out against that and AROOJ Shah took offence to it, and Detective Sergeant Christopher Dean from Tameside Police Station maliciously arrested me and the CPS charged me because I objected to anti-Semitism and because I warned about things that the very Home Secretary now is making reference to. So let's be clear about that. I had nothing to gain other than knowing it was the right thing to do. So, we all knew, anyone who's got a passing interest in the Middle East knows that the nation of Israel was born out of war, and they've always been apprehensive and reactive to people and the nations around them. No one can be surprised by how Israel reacted. Now, you and I can argue about war crimes, collective punishment, but it doesn't matter what you and I think. What matters is that the vast majority of Muslims in this country, the vast majority, and remember, I'm a Muslim, have an affiliation with the Palestinian cause. They believe in a Palestinian homeland. And within that demographic, unfortunately, there is also an element that is anti-Semitic. And the parallel I can give you is that the vast majority of white working class people are horrified by the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of working class white girls. And the Pakistani rape gangs, the Bangladeshi rape gangs, whatever, however you want to describe them. Yet we also know through our own experiences that there are those within that demographic who object, whose motivation isn't exclusively for the well-being of children or justice. It's a racist motivation. And it's the same here. There's a number, and I can't say small, big, large, but there is a number who are clearly anti-Semitic. But without doubt, what you've all seen over the last 2 weeks, just as when it comes to election time, the way in which the Muslim community, the Pakistani and the Bangladeshi and the wider Muslim diaspora mobilizes on issues well, it's powerful, isn't it? Could we mobilize such numbers on a cause we cared about? Could we? I don't think so. I've been to some of the vigils to do with the grooming gangs. No, I don't think so. So I'm not going to criticize people who are politically active. If anything, I look on it and it saddens me that more of us aren't politically active. But what these people did in terms of the demonstrations and the marching was inevitable, just as it was inevitable in the way in which Israel responded. And the reason why it matters here, in our town, and towns like ours with a significant, powerful Muslim minority with a strong political voice, is that for decades, the Labour Party have promised them that they would represent them. And then this happened.
Siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water? Sakir?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation. Obviously, everything should be done within international law, but I don't want to step away from the sort of core principles that Israel has a right to defend.
Siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water? Sakir?
Well, I think.
So, the leader of the Labour Party, in an interview, clearly said what he said. He's then backtracked, but we are on about Keir Starmer. But the damage had been done. And it wasn't just that caused the damage. Let me bring you something up. At the same time as that was being circulated, this was also being circulated by the Labour Party. Message to CLP secretaries and BLP secretaries, so constituency Labour Party secretaries and branch Labour Party secretaries, by email from David Evans on the 14th of the 10th. Were they issued guidance? And the guidance was that in the event that individual members, this is members, not politicians, members, are in attendance at these protests and demonstrations, I ask that no Labour Party banners are taken along. Individuals will not have the ability to control who they are photographed alongside. AROOJ! Who are you photographed alongside? This is the chair of the National Constitutional Committee. Anyway, so this letter went out, and what this letter basically did, effectively did, was ban Labour Party councillors and MPs from speaking out about what was taking place. Remember, these people had knocked on the doors of Muslims. They'd gone to the mosques. Many of them were Muslim. They got elected off the back of a Muslim core vote. And now, hundreds of Muslims, thousands of Muslims were contacting them, asking them to speak out. And not only had they got an email from headquarters, from David Evans, but also the leader of the Labour Party, if we agree that collective punishment is a war crime, was supporting war crimes. And I'm not going to get involved in the, in the rights and wrongs of it. You've got to just see it from the point of view of those who have been affected by it. Here, politically affected by it. So they marched. And in the meantime, because all of this played out at Labour Party conference, the likes of JABBAR, former deputy leader, now AROOJ Shah's bag carrier. She makes him sit next to him, by the way, in council meetings on purpose, even though she's demoted him. Put on his social media account a screen grab of Sky News where Keir Starmer and his wife walks past him and he's holding a placard. It didn't go down well. Got my friend Maroof, who stood as a candidate in Shaw, is hanging out with Jim from Oldham. I produced this. It goes out next week in all of the Asian areas. Because they rebelled. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. JIM McMAHON MP and his team of Oldham Muslim Labour politicians have refused to condemn leader Sir Keir Starmer's suggestion that it is acceptable for Israel to withhold power and water from Gaza. Collective punishment is a war crime prohibited by treaty in both international and non-international armed conflicts. McMahon eventually, I think he waited the best part of 2 weeks, eventually put a statement on Facebook. He didn't put anything on Twitter because the political people he's associated with, he didn't want them, in my opinion, to see him do anything. So he hasn't. But he's put a post up on Facebook. And then, of course, in McMahon style, his limited comments, or block comments. He made no reference. Talk about an own goal. He made no reference to the number of Palestinians that were killed. So these are the candidates, 12 of them, who can all be affected by the blocked Muslim vote, but can also be taken out, providing viable opposition candidates stand. Now, my position for 5 years has been the Labour Party is a racist party. They divide and rule. They exploit the white working class. They exploit the Muslim. And for the last 3 or 4 years, we've been able to effectively campaign in the white working class communities. But in the Muslim communities with the Muslim bloc vote, we've not been able to campaign that well. And one of the reasons has been because they've portrayed us as racists. The Labour Party, McMahon and his kind, have portrayed us as racists. Because campaigning for white working class children that were gang raped, they've twisted the narrative as though it's a racially motivated campaign. It's not. Never has been. Well, then it's the chickens have come home to roost. Because what we now have in these communities is a politically active, politically powerful bloc Muslim vote who can and will, if we proceed in the right way, turn on the Labour Party and vote them out. Ghazala Rana is the candidate for Alexandra. Jenny Harrison has resigned, or retired, or she's resigning and retiring at the end of this term. Instead of picking a white working class person with halts and alts there, they've picked a third Pakistani. A Conservative or an Independent could win there now for the first time ever. Because they won't turn out and vote for her in the same numbers. And then you say to me, well, how can a Conservative win there? The Conservative government and Keir Starmer are on the same page. Yes, they are. But the Conservatives haven't been going and knocking on all the Muslim doors for decades saying we're for you, have they? It's not the Conservatives that have betrayed the Muslim communities, as their Muslim communities see it. It's the Labour Party that has betrayed them. Ruji Surjan is up in coal dust. Montaz is the Conservative candidate this time round. Ruji Surjan, as you can see, headscarf wearing. She makes the most of her Muslim identity to secure votes. Elaine Taylor, Chadderton Central, is reliant on councillors Nazrul Islam and Mohan Ali to go and secure her the block Muslim vote from Chadderton Central. Should be top of my hit list. Eddie Moore's Holly Harrison. They only win by a couple of hundred when there's a strong Conservative opposition. That couple of hundred, I will campaign to keep the bloc Muslim vote at home, if not to switch sides. I suppose it depends who the candidates are from the opposition parties. Forget Failsworth West, you got no chance. Umar Nasheem. They put a Conservative in there 3 years ago, remember, when they didn't get the way. What do you think will happen now? Bashworth. It's a Bangladeshi community in Royton South. Historical Labour Party voters. Josh Charters. From St Mary's up into Dhaka. There's the expansion of Bangladeshi and Pakistanis. He won by 50, 60, 70 votes. Akil Salamat. St Mary's. Telling you now. An independent pro-Palestinian sort of person stand. In St Mary's, Akil Salamat will get took out. Such is the anger in St Mary's. Ross Birch. Oh, Ross Birch, am I going to enjoy delivering these leaflets in Clarksfield? Lees Road. All of that Pakistani area. They're not going to vote for her. Naila Ibrahim, I think, is safe. And do you know why Naila Ibrahim is safe? It's because she issued an email, a Facebook post, public statement, press release, whatever you want to call it, condemning Keir Starmer's statement. 2 Labour Party politicians broke rank immediately. Well, they had to be nudged. But they broke rank. Naila Ibrahim and Shoaib Akhtar. Now, of the two, Shoaib is the heavyweight. He won in Wearmouth, came first, despite Fida Hussein and AROOJ Shah combination trying to maneuver him out. It's the internal Pakistani politics. But Shoaib Akhtar finished first. He's not up for 4 years. He didn't have to say anything. He spoke out against Keir Starmer as well. Now, I go back. I'm not here to have an exchange with you right now as to whether what Keir Starmer said was right or what Israel did was right or wrong, or what Hamas did was right or wrong. In fact, I'm clear on what Hamas did. It was absolutely wrong. I'm here to try and explain to you the political fallout and what's gone on. So Shoaib Akhtar is a threat to AROOJ Shah, issued the statement online. And do you know what happened? AROOJ Shah had a cabinet meeting. And you've all seen, well, maybe you all haven't, many of you will have seen the Conservative Guess Who Facebook post about a defector to the Conservative Party. That was actually a smear campaign led by AROOJ Shah. That's my information. It was a smear campaign led by AROOJ SHAH, so much so that in her cabinet meeting a couple of weeks ago, was it last week? In her cabinet meeting, she tried to suggest to her fellow cabinet members that Shoaib Akhtar, Councillor Shoaib Akhtar, 30 years a Labour Party councillor, was going to defect to the Conservatives. She was trying to smear him. She was trying to smear him because he'd spoken out against Keir Starmer, and AROOJ SHAH, who has aspirations to be MP one day, currently chair of the National Constitutional Committee, wanted to demonstrate to Keir Starmer and his team how she could control the Muslims in Oldham. Well, Naila Ibrahim spoke out. She's gone off to holiday in Pakistan or something, from what I can gather. But Shoaib Akhtar also spoke out. And those of you with long enough memories will know that there's no love loss between Shoaib Akhtar and Irishimi when Irishimi threatened Shoaib Akhtar in a Facebook post for not standing up and clapping appropriately enough in support of AROOJ SHAH. For those of you who are new to me, Irishimi is Dale Cregan, the cop killer's getaway driving convicted heroin dealer who has some form of unspecified relationship with the leader of Oldham Council. So much for Mr. Evans being concerned about Labour Party politicians being photographed alongside unsavoury individuals, when in Oldham they're not photographed, they walk hand in hand down the street. So she's tried to discredit Shoaib Akhtar, and she was embarrassed because even her own people didn't believe her. There's a pattern here in the way AROOJ SHAH and the Labour Party, her style, her politics, her gangster politics of the Labour Party in Oldham operate, of which JIM McMAHON and Debbie Abrahams are partners. If I was Shoaib Akhtar, I'd be deeply worried. From personal experience, when they failed to frame me, they got the police to arrest me on fabricated charges. Yeah. I'd be very careful if I was you, Councillor Akhtar. Maybe the police will find some drugs pinned underneath the wheel arch of your car. Follow you home, manipulate some evidence. What did they try and fabricate with the newspaper as a partner? That I was involved in child sex exploitation? If I was a betting man, and having studied the patterns of behaviour of the gangsters that run this town in partnership with the criminals in Greater Manchester Police, because they wouldn't get away with it without the active partnership of Greater Manchester Police. If I was a betting man, I'd be worried if I was Shoaib Akhtar. So Keir Starmer, first of all, tries to manage the situation, and he heads off to a Islamic centre, a mosque in South Wales. And you can see him here with the imams hanging out, taking photographs, shaking hands, trying to portray an image that the Muslims are okay. They're on his side. The mosque has to issue a statement that basically STARMER gatecrashed the mosque and the imam had no idea who he was. And the mosque is pro-Palestinian. Now, I don't actually believe that. I think the mosque knew full well who he was and were happy to host him. And the politicians, you see, there's a disconnect. For the first time in a long time in our communities, there's a disconnect between the politicians that represent the Muslims and the Muslim communities themselves. And the colonialist style appearance of the white man, and I mean that, colonialist style, where he'll rock up and everyone line up to shake his hand, feed him a samosa, which JIM McMAHON and Keir Starmer have been used to, and has benefited the Labour Party. No more. The mosque had to issue a statement, and the imam claimed he didn't even know who Keir Starmer was. And all the time in the background, Mr. Flip-Flop, who needs to show himself as being strong on this issue. And the reason he needs to show himself being strong on this issue has got nothing to do with the Gazans or Israel. It's to do with anti-Semitism in his own party. So he's gambled the Muslim vote for that middle-class white vote he needs to win in certain key areas, and the media to get on his side. And he thought the colonial style of leadership where you rule through proxies who look like the people you need the vote of, these men in this photograph, would deliver for him. What he and his Labour Party, including AROOJ SHAH, the career politicians, didn't realise was the backlash they would face as a consequence of what is taking place in Israel and Gaza right now. And they tried, remember, in the background, they tried to quell support for these protests. Oldham had a protest in the town centre, was it last Sunday, I think? Not this Sunday, last Sunday. Shoaib Akhtar went. Naila Ibrahim didn't because she was on her way to Pakistan. But Shoaib Akhtar went. Two of the Pakistani councillors from from Medlock Vale, Coppice, went. All three of the Conservatives from Hollingwood went. Now, ordinarily, AROOJ SHAH would have to have suspended, at this point, Naila Ibrahim and Shoaib Akhtar for issuing the statement, and Shoaib Akhtar for also going to the demonstration, and the two male candidates, councillors from Medlock Vale, Pakistanis. That's four she would have to have suspended. She can't suspend four because she'd lose overall control of the council. So the Labour group put this out, thinking it would quell dissent. Many Oldhamers have been in touch, understandably feeling helpless and heartbroken at the conflict affecting innocent civilians. See the latest statement from Councillor AROOJ SHAH. And she tries to put children up as a human shield, or the Labour Party does in Oldham. Donate to save the children. Some form of deflection tactics. It didn't work. Because the bloc Muslim votes across the country are very clear. They want Starmer to apologise and backtrack. And he wouldn't. So the Oldham Times then, a couple of days ago, ran with this story. Remember, there's 4 already that have rebelled. 2 from Werneth, 2 from Medlock. Add another 4. The most important of these 4 is Councillor SHAID MUSHTAQ, the deputy leader, AROOJ Shah's right-hand man. Also MOHON Ali, AROOJ Shah's Bangladeshi boy. She's promoted him to the cabinet. Nazrul Islam, even the former deputy leader, Abdul JABBAR, and Councillor Abdul Malik. So now we've got 9. And they're not calling for a ceasefire, by the way. Because AROOJ, they're trying to change the narrative. They're not calling for a ceasefire. What they're calling for is for the leader of the Labour Party, their leader, to apologise for supporting war crimes. The letter's very clear. Give me a second. Let me just bring up the letter so you can see it. I had it prepared. This is the letter. Labour Muslim Councillor Network. Councillor Abdul Malik said it's a nice letter, as though it's just asking for humanitarian aid. No, it's not. No nation, no people or community should have to endure collective punishment. And the same should be for the case of the Palestinian people. We cannot sit idly by as Palestinians face collective punishment. So it isn't just calling for an immediate ceasefire. It's in complete contradiction to what Keir Starmer has said. This Keir Starmer, who in 2015 was happily speaking at a Camden Palestinian Solidarity Campaign public meeting. Gaza and the siege. Can you see why they're so angry? It's because for all these years they've been led to believe that Labour is on their side. Labour has done nothing to challenge any of the views and opinions of people within my own community that would in any way be, you and I would consider, to be anti-Western. Just have a look at JIM McMAHON and how he rocks up to samosa events where in audiences of almost exclusively men. Look at AROOJ Shah and how after claiming misogyny is happy to endorse male-only spaces. They've used it and used it and used it for generations. And they've never spoken out. And when people like me speak out, I'm a racist or I'm a coconut or I'm a something else. Sell out. So they've made progressive Muslims like me into the enemy so they can pander to the prejudices within my own community that need to be addressed. Iran, which funds Hamas, treat women appallingly. And I'd hate to be homosexual there. The Labour Party have done nothing for decades to tackle any of these issues in my community. So what did you think was going to happen in the lead up to a general election where a man like this rocks up and says, yeah, collective punishment's okay by me? What did you think was going to happen? It doesn't matter what you think about it. It doesn't matter what I think about it. It doesn't matter which side you're on or which side I'm on. What did you think was going to happen? And you know what you need to do? Some of you. You need to keep out of it. Don't get involved in it. Don't give the Labour Party the opportunity to try and manipulate and twist the situation so they can say you're the racists and you're the ones that they should be fighting. If we want to use a bit of this at this moment in time, stay out of it. And if you've got an opinion, I urge you, because I genuinely believe in all of you. The humane thing to do here is to support the aid agencies and those who want peace. Because I've never in my life seen any conflict such as this, where one group can militarily defeat another. It won't happen here. And it's not black and white as the way you and I might be seeing it on the played out on the BBC. It isn't black and white. But please, what good do you think it'll do to wave an Israeli flag on a situation such as this? I'm horrified by what Hamas have done. Remember, I risked imprisonment for speaking out against them. We've got this far because we've become politically educated. And over the last few weeks, I've looked at a number of times of people I respect saying things. Don't. The Muslims have every right to be angry at the Labour Party. And the Muslims have every right to hold Labour Party politicians to account. And the reason why these men are squirming is because they know that the Muslim vote that they can rely on like this has told them no more. And now they're squirming. So in the wards in May, the Conservatives' position is to support a public inquiry into the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children, Carrie. Irrespective of if they're Muslim or not, the Muslim councillors and the Conservative, the Free Conservative Muslim councillors voted in support of a public inquiry. And it's my message to all the Muslims, apart from this isn't a Muslim issue, the cover-up and the blocking of a public inquiry. The cover-up, the blocking of a public inquiry isn't to protect Muslims, it's to protect Labour Party politicians and white council officers and police officers who are complicit. No Muslim I know who isn't involved in politics, or Labour Party politics in particular, no Muslim I know is against a public inquiry. In fact, they'd rather have a public inquiry so blame can be attributed on the right people instead of collective responsibility on them. Remember, Shabir Ahmed was dobbed in by his daughter, who refused to go away from the police station. Remember the Shisha Bar scandal and that email, Kevin Fitzpatrick? The people who reported it were the Asians. They will be cleared. And this town can heal and move forward. So the Conservatives, whatever their background, are supportive of a public inquiry. This came out earlier today, just before I was prepping. 7 more Labour Party councillors in Blackburn have resigned. This was today. The pressure is being ramped up and ramped up and ramped up from within the Muslim community against Labour Party councillors. They're having to resign. And if they're not resigning, like AROOJ Shah, they're being completely humiliated wherever they go. Her own deputy has stabbed her in the back and defied orders. Her own deputy. AROOJ! Are you okay, AROOJ? Are they saying nasty words about you, AROOJ? The opportunist, Burnham, of course, has jumped on the bandwagon, but we expected that. What he says is of no consequence in the Bangladeshi, in the Pakistani communities, in the Muslim communities. I spoke to a friend of mine, a very politically connected friend of mine this afternoon. Raja, we're not voting for him. People are angry. They betrayed us. It's exactly the same language that I've heard from my white working class peers. We have an opportunity. I put this up because you're being played and I wanted to warn you. The Met Chief, Mark Rowley, calls for a law change. Some nutcase at one of these rallies. Actually, he wasn't at the rally. The way in which the BBC and some of the mainstream media and those it suits to portray a narrative, it's no different to when we were all far right, racist, when we objected to the cover-up of the gang rape of little white girls. There's some idiot from Hizb Ut-Tahrir at some fringe rally, not even the main one, some fringe rally, shouting jihad. The police didn't arrest him because they reckoned he hadn't broken the law and they needed law changing. Bullshit. The police could have arrested him, should have arrested him. They intentionally didn't arrest him. They want more powers. How do you think they get more powers? Do they think that we're going to agree to the police having more powers on issues we agree with? Of course not. They're going to use issues like this, with a natural predisposition, I would say, of if not the majority of the significant number of politically nuanced people in this country, is to side with Israel. We've had long-standing relationships with Israel. Forget the fact that these are all brown faces and white faces. So the chief of the Met claims some idiot ranting jihad isn't enough and he wants more powers. Well, what do you think he'll do with those more powers? He'll use them on you and me. Don't be stupid and fall for this nonsense. The police are playing their own game here. They could and should have arrested these people. And the vast majority of the Muslims who I spoke to who've attended these marches want nothing to do with the anti-Semites either, and definitely nothing to do with the Islamists. But a narrative is being spun here to tarnish all of these people with the same brush, just as a narrative was being spun to tarnish all of us as far-right racists. So those that control the country are looking for a way of exploiting this for their own ends. So just be careful. The law doesn't need changing. He doesn't need more powers. Ranting jihad on the street and you're a member of an extremist organisation, you should be arrested. Immediately. Of course, there are those from within my community who are Labour Party diehards, who are desperate to work with AROOJ SHAH to cleanse her reputation before next May. These are the samosa nibblers, the ones who will go and have a photograph took with one of these people no matter what. Here's AROOJ SHAH taking photographs with, well, one of them I definitely know, I grew up with him, the Running Man guy, 296, AROOJ. He's been mocked in his own community for taking this picture. Stay out of it. See? It's not going to win. What these people ordinarily do isn't going to work this time. And looking at the situation in Gaza, it's only going to get worse. STARMER's boxed himself where he can't change his position because he'll be seen to be weak. McMahon he's in hiding, isn't he? They even put up a demonstration this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't know, at Chadderton Town Hall. Nothing to do with me, I don't know any of these people. Why do you think they were demonstrating at Chadderton Town Hall? They were demonstrating in McMahon's front garden. On purpose. I said earlier about AROOJ and what she's dressed up like, but I saw another picture. I don't... Look, what do I know? I don't get the Botox thing. Or whatever it is. They're being mocked in their own community. And these are charity fundraiser guys. And they're being mocked because they decided they wanted to take a photograph with AROOJ SHAH, the Labour Party politician who tried to stop her fellow Muslim politicians from speaking out. And just by chance, coincidence, she's re-elected as the chair of the National Constitutional Committee this week. These people are career politicians. And in the main, members of the public despise career politicians because they make decisions to benefit them. And the communities that elect them are just stepping stones in their careers. I caused this. Yes, indeed, mate. How on earth did I cause whatever that is? If I was to hazard a guess, Gary, too many needles and whatever else is involved in whatever that world is what caused that. Here she is earlier with Frank Rothwell. The £1 million grant to Oldham Athletic. People are still none the wiser as to exactly why some groups cannot access the pitch. And we'll move on to this. Let me have a break. Let me have a cup of tea. I'll come back. And we'll move on to more light-hearted matters, I think. If you're finding value in this transmission, and there is, I'm just turning this on, 207 of you watching. If you're finding value in this transmission, please consider buying me a coffee. The link is pinned at the top. I'll just put it back up here whilst I go and get a coffee. These transmissions are all free to air. The only restriction is the 99p YouTube subscribers get to comment, which then protects me. But I put all the content out free to air. And the only way in which I earn a wage is via people finding value in my work and deciding to financially support me. Some of you support me very handsomely and I'm very, very grateful to you. But I'd much rather the 207 of you bought me a coffee and then I'd be okay. Once every Sunday. Let me get a drink. I'm going to have another biscuit. Maybe you get a drink. I'll put some music on and I'll be back. If you're finding value in these transmissions, turn the light back on. If you're finding value in these transmissions, please consider supporting the channel and buying me a samosa, coffee, whatever you see fit. The transmissions are only possible with your support. My hope is I can come back and do a transmission on a pre-transmission of the council meeting, and then a watch along with the council meeting and a subsequent analysis of the council meeting. So I'm hoping I can do all three of those things this week. But as ever, it's your support that allows me to get my content out. So that's entirely in your hands. So some of you have sent me this, and I'm like, what do you want me to say? I'm just laughing at it. So the independent group, that's Mark Inster, and this is them in their entirety, I think. There's Nick Summerscales on the right, then there's John Hughes, Mark Wilkinson, Mark Hince, the husband and wife duo of Lee and Lisa Navesey, Kath Wilkinson, that's Sandra Ball, and of course Maggie Hurley. And I think Amoy was there also. What's the point of saying anything? These people first of all, those of you who've been in touch with me and saying you've contacted them, well, now you know, don't you? The parties are bogus. These aren't political parties. These aren't membership organisations. These are fronts, aren't they? And yeah, I've been used for them to get forward. Fine. Maggie Hurley's a laughing stock anyway. Sandra Ball never does anything in the council chamber. And Mark Hince is, well, you'll see soon enough. If Mark Wilkinson gets back in next year, then great, I'll celebrate. Because he'll have took out a Labour Party seat. Lee and Lisa Navesey, who they think they're getting in Shaw, well, good luck to them. There's a council meeting on Wednesday. What are the odds? Big Team Maggie saying anything. What are the odds? Anyone? This is Dr. Aslam Nassim, is the Labour Party candidate in Hollingwood. Now, I've always been of the opinion that we need balanced representation. Range of ethnic backgrounds, range of genders, all of that. The Labour Party, who up to now had only ever put up white candidates in Hollingwood, and seen the Conservatives come in with Asian candidates and win, have decided not to go back to the Piffian or Hannah Roberts or whatever the third one was called. They've decided to go and get an Asian candidate. And he's out knocking on doors with JIM McMAHON. And I'm sorry, you know, because remember I'm being sued, not being sued, and they want to take an injunction out against me. What is that bloke on the end wearing? He's a councillor, isn't he? Scruffy? If I call him Scruffy, do I get in trouble? Anyway, they've not got the team that are going out in Hollingwood. They're having to rely on Councillor Fida Hussain to bring some of his loyalists out from Werneth. Jim, AROOJ, councillors. They've got councillors, ordinary members of the Labour Party, are unwilling to be seen out with Jim McMahon campaigning. And they've got an Asian candidate in Hollingwood. Now, the Conservative councillor is standing there. He's an Asian guy. And if we're not careful, that Asian brand of politics takes over Hollingwood. As it has Werneth, as it has Medlock Vale, as it has Coldhurst, as it has Chaddington Central, Alexandra, St Mary's. Another ward falls. So why am I showing you this? I'm showing you this. And my friend David Nestor's here, I think. I saw him earlier. I put his hello up earlier on. I know Paul Taylor listens to these transmissions. He won't post and stuff, but I know he listens to these transmissions. That's from Oldham Heart. We need someone who will represent Limeside, someone who will represent the wider demographic rather than a narrow interest group of one Pakistani fighting out with another Pakistani. And that needs to happen in Hollingwood. It also needs to happen in Alexandra. Now, yes, I've been burned by independents across the board. I don't care. I'm not here for them. I'm here for you. I'm here for the people of my town. And I look at what's happening in Hollingwood and I look at what's happening in Alexandra, and it makes me feel very, very uncomfortable. So hopefully Oldham Heart will mobilise very quickly, and if not, someone else, maybe even a local independent. If you're in Hollingwood and fancy standing, let me know. We got Big Team Hurley over the line, remember? Or maybe we didn't. It was all John Hughes. If you stand too late, too close to an election, not enough people will come and vote for you, because the first time you're knocking on the door is the first time you're asking for the vote. And disenfranchised, cynical people won't turn out for you. And why should they? You need to earn it. So we do need independence. You know, the old Labour sort of representation. The white working class that the Labour Party betrayed in Hollingwood. Very quickly. You were ditched just like that. And in Alexandra over time, where the deal historically had been one white councillor because of the Holtz and Alt demographic of white working class. Well, now you've been ditched as well. And remember, I'm not standing in Alexandra. Hollingwood, yes, I've got a vested interest in. But I'll help in Alexandra as well, if we can get the candidates mobilised. When things change around you, and you wake up one day and you don't recognise, and you feel a sense of belonging is gone, it hasn't just happened. It's a series of incremental, small, but very significant events that led us to where we are, which is where we don't want to be. So I worry for Hollingwood, my friends in Limeside. And I genuinely worry for Alexandra and my friends and family in Holtz and Alt. I worked in Holtz and Alt for a long time. Nothing but love when I was there. It's where Hughie MacDonald was the councillor. See how all of this is connected? Which is why I don't think any of this is accidental. And if you believe in fate, well then, That's why I'm here and you're here. But Hollingwood will fall and Alexandra will fall unless we do something about it. Last week, I think there was like 200 of my posts were deleted, banned, blocked, whatever, I don't know, and many of you had the same. I appealed them, heard nothing back, but at the same time, no sanctions imposed on me. I'd have been banned for like 500 years, the number of posts they took off. The more I'm reading into it, the more it's some sort of Facebook glitch that targeted all of my posts and nothing else came of it. I'm looking at Gary Tarbuck here in front of me and he's had, what, 200 or so? He'd have been banned, mate, and you're still there. So put it down as a glitch and move on. So please continue to share my content. Continue to comment on my content. If you don't share, if you don't comment, we don't get the message out in the way we need to. I post on Facebook. I've been arrested for posting on Facebook. Never been successfully prosecuted because it's a free country and we're allowed to have a political opinion. And you, well, I have every right to want to share my insights and hopefully educate you, politically educate you. They don't like it, which is why they've been trying to get us removed for the last 4 years, 5 years now. And they failed. And whatever this was hasn't worked. So please like, please share. I wanted to post this up because I know the lad who owns the shop. Phone Hub is opposite the Charrington Town Hall. It's off Middleton Road. It's on that road that they blocked off. The council blocked off. And what he's told me repeatedly is, Raja, since the council blocked off that road and made it a dead end, where his shop is and other shops are, they've been completely isolated. And the idiots in the council have decided to do this. What they should have done actually on that strip of road was just put a mini roundabout on, and it would have slowed down traffic that speeds up Middleton Road anyway. But these people don't live in our town. They have no understanding of what our town really is about. And as a consequence of what the council has done, this lad is going to be driven out of business. He's a decent lad, tries to do his, earn an honest day's living, and his business has been decimated as a direct consequence of all the actions of Oldham Council. I'm still waiting to see a single councillor, by the way, on the push bike. A single Labour Party councillor on the push bike. This popped up last week for me. Peel Street, thank you, Ian. You live round there, you're familiar enough with it, right? It's nonsense, isn't it? What they've done there is stupid. The police have prosecuted a guy who made reference to Angela Rayner as an ugly menopausal pig. Let's go with it. Making reference to a politician as an ugly menopausal pig means that the police need to go and arrest the individual and prosecute him. Let's go with that for a minute. Here is the PC Hayes Blair. And I'm not finished with you, PC Hayes Blair. You tried to call me earlier. I'm not speaking to you. I've emailed you, and you can write to me, PC Hayes Blair, because I don't trust you. PC Hayes Blair is another one of those bent police officers. For 6 months now, I've been reporting a crime, and I won't let it go. It's to do with MUSHTAQ Mia and Westwood and Coldust News, or whatever that page is called. He runs that. He superimposed a picture of me as a criminal in a Greater Manchester Police press release. And then repeatedly posted that I'm involved in child sex exploitation. In fact, I'm involved in raping children. There's no ambiguity, provided the evidence. Chased them up until they agreed for me to sign a statement, gave me a crime reference number. Now PC Hayes Blair 03959 is saying, unfortunately, due to a lack of evidence, police have not got reasonable grounds to suspect him. He's got his name on the Facebook post, you stupid. She's not stupid, is she? She's corrupt. Criminal police officer. That's what you are, aren't you, PC Blair? You're a criminal police officer. This is a group chat with over 3,000 participants. Exactly. That's why it's malicious. It's 3,000 participants in the main from the community where I come from who believe that I am a child sex offender as a consequence of his posts that I've provided you with the evidence for. Now, what? And of course, I've responded to her and she won't reply. And the reason Bent PC Blair won't respond, and yes, Hayes Blair, I will find a photograph of you and I'll share it with all of the evidence. I might even produce some leaflets and hand it out outside the police stations. Because I am a politician and your refusal to arrest these people is encouragement for these people to attack me, because it gives credence to their claim that I'm a child sex offender or I'm a criminal. So if someone can be prosecuted for making reference to a politician as an ugly menopausal pig, sure as hell people should be arrested for superimposing my photograph on Greater Manchester Police press releases of convicted criminals and repeatedly naming me as a child sex offender. And what PC Hayes Blair refuses to do is answer one single question. Did you interview MUSHTAQ Mia? And the reason she won't interview MUSHTAQ, she won't answer that question, is because I know and she knows that she is corrupt and hasn't interviewed him. Because Greater Manchester Police are neck deep in this scandal, and when this plays out, your career will be over, PC Blair, the same as so many others. Because the truth will out in this, and your career will be finished, and I will humiliate you before your career ends. Detective Sergeant Christopher Dean was forced to return my computer equipment this week after 2.5 years, and I'm very much looking forward to the one trial I have left her. Very much looking forward to it, and I invite every one of you to attend the trial next May, and I invite every member of the press to attend. And you then can judge for yourself whether the police have been active in aiding mobsters to do me harm. An absolute disgrace you are, PC Blair. An absolute disgrace. And the reason you keep phoning me and not picking up the phone is because I don't trust you. I want your response in writing. Did you interview him? Yes or no? There are other police officers who I'm pursuing through the process, and all of their careers will be ruined. And once I get elected, and I'm more likely now to get elected than I was last week, with McMahon losing the block vote, once I get elected, I will stand in Parliament and call for the arrest of these police officers who were involved in inciting violence against a member of the public, a politician such as myself. Disgraceful. The Oldham Times. Bed bugs have overtaken bees, rats and mice to become the pest people in Oldham are looking to exterminate. The Oldham Times. You read the article. You know how they've come to that conclusion. Do any of you know how they've come to that conclusion? Someone has spoken to the council. It's that Jack Fiffield that you all pay for, I think, out of your BBC licence paying fees. It's that Jack Fiffield for Highfield. You know, the young man who went on Twitter to share about some STD. Someone in the council has told them that the web page at the council relevant to this has had 30 hits on it. It could be 30 hits from the same family. Or the same HMO. Idiots. Desperate. Desperate. Now to something a bit more serious. We went over this last time. Remember I played AROOJ Shah's interview with the BBC? Well, a number of actors and artists, including Dame Emma Thompson and Sir Ian McKellen, have signed a letter which looks to save Oldham Coliseum. So there's this campaign to keep the Coliseum alive. And I shared with you last time why I felt it was just a political tool for the Lib Dems, and you're all being used. Remember, Sam Al-Hamdani was on the old management committee. And I made reference to Jane Barker, who blocked me and posted this. She even issued a statement. I was mentioned in a recent broadcast by Recusant Raja. I issued the attached statement as I have no prior knowledge of the broadcast or that my name was being used in it. The interview with Councillor Shah is publicly available. She's attempting to distance herself. During this broadcast, Raja Mia stated I had sent him a link to an interview with Oldham Council leader AROOJ Shah. I circulated a link in public and private social media groups and it was not sent to Mr. Mia personally. He picked it up from one of these groups. So she claims I picked it up from one of the groups that her and I are both members of. I had no prior knowledge of the broadcast and I was not involved in the making of the broadcast in any way. The closure of Coliseum Theatre is complicated and AROOJ Shah's claims cannot be addressed by a statement from the Coliseum board, as claimed for by Mr. Mia. You absolute numpty, Jane Barker. You're just another one of those Mark Hinces, aren't you? Absolute numpty. Why is she speaking out on behalf of the Coliseum board? I asked the Coliseum board to issue a statement. What has it got to do with you, Jane? What's it got to do with you? It's because you've been found out, haven't you? You and your Lib Dem mates have been found out. I've just asked the most specific question and you don't like it. So now she's trying to twist it to say as though she has no association with me on this issue. You can see it there. Am I reading it wrong? Tell me if I'm reading this wrong. And I know she watches this. Hiya, Jane. Watch what I do to you now. On what basis is she issuing a statement saying what the Coliseum board can and can't do when she's not a member of the Coliseum board? And she's trying to distance herself. As though she's not been connected with me in terms of the playing out of the Coliseum and the campaign to try and make sense of what's happened there. Yeah. This is the... so she blocked me from the group we were at, or she, you know, whatever she did. But you can see, I got this. Did anyone hear AROOJ SHAH? And by the way, she also blocked me from the Twitter exchange I had with her, where she even made reference to having seen my transmission the week before and was trying to get some clarity. But I've got stuff for you. You can see she's having an interaction with a group where the person she's responding to is me, because no one else in that private Twitter chat has engaged with her on this. Found it. Now have the AROOJ SHAH interview downloaded. I'm listening to it, and it sounds like Shah is claiming that the Oldham Coliseum have never asked to stay in the old building. That is what she is claiming. That is false. Who is she responding to there? Is she responding to me? Or to some imaginary friend of hers? Who is she responding to there? You see her? Who is she responding to? Why these people lie, I have no idea. Well, I do. But why do you think they lie and will get away with it? Now, I did not criticise Jane in that transmission. Go and watch it. Go and listen to it. This is where it finishes. Hi Raja, heard your analysis of the Oldham Coliseum. Just to clarify, the old Coliseum board no longer exists. I asked her the question, who is the new board? She never responded. Is she engaging with me or interacting with me? Yes or no? This is her statement. I was not involved in the making of the broadcast in any way. Yet here you are, sending me the link and responding to me. Also giving me additional information to do with Councillor Fielding. Oh, and Fielding was supposed to look into the Coliseum. And here you are also yeah, she's going to stand as a Lib Dem, isn't she? She's going to stand as a Lib Dem, isn't she? Manipulating all of you. Text message conversations with Jane Barker. Hi Raja, hope you're okay. You can see it's to do with the Oldham Coliseum. These are text messages she's sending me. Why would someone want to be sending me messages if they didn't want me to be raising public awareness? Thanks, Shane. I listened to your question at the cabinet meeting. You were yards away from Chadderton, Amanda Chadderton. What did you make of her response? Is this a woman who's been engaging with me or not? Come on, people. How many slaps am I going to take without some of you at least accepting what is going on here? You've all gone quiet on me. Why? Oh, but we like Jane Barker. She's a nice woman. In a public meeting last week, both Chris Lawson and Sam Al-Hamdani said that the plans that were published were not the plans that they had been discussing with the council. That is the Colosseum. I don't believe Amanda Chadderton at all. I've not even responded to her, you can see. She submitted an application to have the Colosseum building listed. See? And this is what she had to say. Issued a statement for reasons that only she knows. I'll mention your name as many times as I want, Jane Barker. Particularly as you've been sending me messages and email and text messages and content asking me for support in raising the issue around the Colosseum. And I asked the question again. Why isn't the Colosseum issuing a statement to say it wants to stay there? Why isn't the new board of the Colosseum simply issuing a statement? It's using every one of you, and this is the Lib Dems using you. The Lib Dems are using you, every one of you. They've caught onto an issue and they're exploiting you. It's what they do. A statement. There. The closure of the Colosseum Theatre is complicated, and AROOJ Shah's claims cannot be addressed by a statement from the Colosseum Board as called for by Mr. Mayor. Who are you to speak on behalf of the Colosseum Board, Jane Barker? Doesn't seem so complicated here, is it? I'm listening to it and it sounds like Shah is claiming that the Oldham Colosseum have never asked to stay in the old building. Jane Barker's response, that is what she's claiming, that is false. I had no issue with Jane Barker. You'll never find anywhere where I criticise her in any way. Yet she decided to issue this statement, making me sound as though I've done something wrong. And now you've seen the truth again, as I've done previously and times before. You deserve better. Every one of you deserves better. Our town deserves better. So who sacked the old board? Or if they resigned, who did they tender the resignations to? Who appointed the new board? See, that's where Barker and I appear to have had a parting of ways, because I asked this very simple question. There is a completely new board who have not been involved in drawing up the plans or requests to stay at the existing building. Who is the new board? What's wrong with this town? You have political parties that don't have members. And now you've got a Coliseum board, and God knows who the new board is and how they were elected, but simply by asking the question, I'm somehow done something wrong. And made out to be a liar or something. Well, you can see who the liar is. I circulated the link in public and private social media groups, and it was not sent to Mr. Mir personally. He picked it up from one of these groups. This group, where you sent it. I asked you, and you responded. She'll fit right in, won't she? She'll fit right in. As for blocking me, you coward. You coward. Blocking me to have abuse me. Coward. No, it's not to save the Coliseum board. We're on specifically about the board. She's on specifically about the Coliseum board. Because I'm asking about the Coliseum board. The new board. See, I didn't ask to save the Coliseum board. I'm on about the actual Coliseum board. The old board of trustees no longer exists. So she knows which board I'm talking about. I'm talking about the board of the Coliseum, not the Save the Coliseum pressure group. What they're trying to do is use every one of you so they can say they've saved it. And then get people to vote Lib Dems. That's what I think is going on here. She's close with Hamdani and Kenyon. There's no space in Saddleworth Western Lees. And she'll probably stand in... She'll probably stand against... What's he called? Woodvine. Jane Barker, ladies and gentlemen. Add her to your list. Along with this idiot. The head teacher at Newman. This is the idiot. He's got me blocked, by the way. Who promoted Neil Wilby. Whilst he was at work encouraging people, tweeting, encouraging people to follow Neil Wilby. Despite Neil Wilby posting pictures of young women's, close-ups of young women's breasts. Why a head teacher would be asking people to follow such an individual, only he knows. He now wants responsibility for road safety to start with young people. No. Responsibility for road safety starts with the bloody drivers, mate, and I'm a driver. Particularly around schools. Do not absolve responsibility and pass it on to a 12-year-old kid. What responsibility, in the context of this, what responsibility did that poor young girl have? Walking home from school or college who was killed. Was it at BMW, those lads racing? Mounted the pavement? What respect? He's just desperate for attention. Desperate for attention. I'm just bringing up his name. I forgot his name. Potts. Martin Potts, isn't it? Mr. Potts. He's one of the Labour Party boys. Outrageous. Outrageous statement. there's a by-election for a parish councillor for the completely ineffective Saddleworth Parish Council. Max Woodvine standing. The Lib Dems had one. They basically put someone in themselves, and that person stood down. So now there's now having to be a by-election. I think Woodvine is standing as the Conservatives, and they're falling out. The Lib Dems and the Conservatives up there are having a row, and it's kicked off. And you know what? The advice I've given you around the Gaza stuff, I've stepped back. I don't smoke, but if I smoked a pipe, that's what I'd be doing. And watching the entertainment. As the Lib Dems and the Saddleworth Conservatives, who are completely ineffective, are fighting it out. November the 9th, Digwell and Dobcross Ward. I'm particularly interested in how many turn out to vote. I'm genuinely interested in how many turn out to vote. Lynn Taylor for the Lib Dems. The Labour Party nationally won 2 seats last week whilst they were off. All the newspapers ran with it. Keir Starmer went to celebrate. Have a look at the actual figures. The Conservative Party vote stayed at home. The Labour Party vote increased by hundreds at best. At best, I don't think it increased in one and the other one by 100 or 200. Ignore it. The Conservative Party vote stayed at home, which is why, to all the Conservatives who are watching here, please do not stay at home when the general election comes. Particularly if you live in Oldham, West, Chariton and Royton. Vote for me. Lend me a vote and let me take out JIM McMAHON. Help me take out JIM McMAHON. I now have Muslims in record numbers willing to support me. I have hopefully the white working class who have been campaigning alongside and fighting on behalf of for the last 4 or 5 years. Despite the independent politicians. I mean, just what is she going to do? Is Maggie Hurley going to go and knock on doors and say vote for JIM McMAHON instead of vote for Raja Mir? The only way, thank you mate, that's 3 votes I've got. The only way we can win this is with a cross-community coalition and a cross-political coalition. I need and I know the white working class will support me. They've seen me for the last 4 or 5 years and they know I come from a place of authenticity. Actually, I don't want to be a politician. You all know that. I've been forced into this position because of you. I'm all right with it. I come from a Bangladeshi community. I've maintained with all of you. I might be a dog to some of them, but I'm still their dog. They'll vote for me. And now, as a consequence of the Gaza thing, more of them will vote for me. Because I've called out the Labour Party hypocrisy and I've demonstrated to them I was right all along. They've just been used. I'm going to deliver these leaflets in Wornoth, in Medlock, in Hollingwood. I'm sure the Pakistanis will vote for me. Just to see the back of McMahon. And also to clean up this mess. Because they don't want to be associated with the grooming gangs. They want a public inquiry. Best part of 12 to 13,000 voted Conservative last time in Oldham West. It's a complete waste of a vote. Because they don't even come close. Tactically vote and vote for me. And with a combination, the Conservative vote, the Brexit vote, the independent vote, and support from within Oldham's Bangladeshi and Pakistani community, we can take out McMahon. He's 25,000. He won't come anywhere near. We'll take him out. So when you see this national stuff, look at the data, because the data doesn't follow through what you're being told. You're being manipulated. People aren't switching sides. Not wrong with a dog. No. Hey, Gary, definitely not wrong with your two dogs, mate. I'd not say a bad word to either of them. Oldham Council objected to a proposal to build nearly 1,400 homes in Rochdale near its border with Oldham. You know why? They objected because apparently the proposal went in before the places for everyone's statutory consultation. So the council are objecting to Rochdale trying to force through planning before the consultation. But in Woodhouses, they were happy to pass through a development that should have been in that same consultation. Why? See the hypocrisy? That consultation is open, by the way, and I'll do something very specific on it for those of you who are interested, particularly if you live in Royton, because they will try and destroy bits of Royton, the bits connecting Royton and Shaw, and in Chadderton. Our green belt is, we're custodians of it as far as I'm concerned. Shouldn't be building on it. And in a town like ours, we don't need to build on it. There's plenty of brownfield sites that need building on. This is nothing to do with meeting housing need. This is to do with trying to fill council coffers with council tax revenue, because the council is on the verge of bankruptcy. And they're willing to sell out our green belt. And councillors like Mark Ince and Brian Hoban are willing partners in this. Mate, I've said to everyone, I said to you, I'll be happy to stack shelves in Aldi, mate, once this ends. There's an Aldi open. I drove past it on Leith Road. I looked at it to the right and I thought, I wonder what it'd be like. Thank you very, very, very much for all of you who've joined me. My intention is to come back with a pre-council, to go through all the council paperwork. There's a full council meeting this week. I've got all the motions. I'll have all the amendments. I'll have gone through all the stuff. I've been sat at my mum's. I've been sat at my mum's, and there's not a lot I can do there apart from read. So I've been reading. Got some headphones on. I'm up to date on all the documentation. I've not been. This is my living room, as you all know. I've not been home. I've been sleeping on my mum's sofa on the floor, really. So I've not been home to do these transmissions. It's not that I don't want to do them. It's just I've not been home to do them. I'm prepped to do them. So I'm hoping I can come back maybe tomorrow night to do a council prep thing before Wednesday's council meeting, and I'll do a Wednesday watch along and maybe a Thursday or a Thursday at some point a debrief of the council meeting. Thank you very, very, very much to all of you who've joined me. My name is Raj Amir. This is a Recusant 9 transmission. Enjoy your evening.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.